So back in 2017, I was a little less than a year in business, and I had a call from a homeowner to do this job. It was on a pre-manufactured home, and they wanted me to install an electrical outlet on the outside of their house. So in the backyard, they didn't have any electrical outlets at all around the outside. And I think they wanted to install maybe some Christmas lights or something. They wanted to plug something in the backyard. So I said, not a problem. So what I found in one of the back bedrooms, or this was actually in the living room on the back of the house, there was an outlet. So I punched through the wall and installed an outlet directly behind this outlet on the inside. And when I pulled the existing outlet out, I thought it was weird, but I didn't think anything of it. Basically, the hot wire was connected correctly. The neutral wire was connected around the neutral terminal, but then connected to the ground terminal of the outlet. And then obviously the ground wire was connected to the ground terminal as well. I'm like, well, that's weird, but I didn't think anything of it because I didn't know any different. So I went ahead, I installed my outlet like I normally would. I wired it up correctly. And then when I put this outlet back in, I wired it all up correctly. So the hot to the hot, neutral to the neutral, ground to the ground, and turned the power back on. And sure enough, there was no power to the whole back half of the house. So I'm like, oh boy, what happened here? But I went and I double checked, and I'm like, everything's wired up correctly. There's no problems here. So actually, I was thinking about it. I was trying to think about it, like what's going on. I double checked everything, and I'm like, I told the client, I'm like, okay, I'm not going to leave you high and dry. I'm going to figure this out. So what I ended up doing is I called an electrician, and I was ready to pay an electrician to come out and finish the job for me because obviously I did something wrong. At least that's what I had thought, right? So I was talking to the electrician. And he's like, okay, so what's going on? Because you really don't want me to go out there, the electrician said to me. He's like, if I go out there, it's going to be $300 minimum. So let's talk a little bit about it. I'm like, okay, well, I went ahead and I installed, punched through, installed an outlet on the outside of the house, GFCI, and then basically took power from the inside outlet and ran it to that and hooked everything back up the correct way, and bimo bongo bongo, now we have no power. I want to interrupt this video real quick and let you guys know that I have created an Amazon store so that you guys can see all of the tools that I recommend as well as business books that I highly recommend. The tools is quite interesting. As I was building that store, I realized there's a lot of crazy tools that I've really come across in our 7 years in business. So check that out. I will put a link in the description below where you can check out that Amazon store, see everything that we recommend. And also, I want to let you know, so you don't forget, you can schedule a free consultation call with me at handymanjourney.com/coaching. I look forward to talking with you soon. Let's get back to today's video. And he's like, okay, well, let's dig it down a little bit further. So you hooked all the wires up exactly how they were when you took them apart. And I'm like, that's when it clicked. I'm like, crap, I didn't. I hooked them up right. The hot to the hot, neutral to the neutral, ground to ground, but I did not hook them up the way that they were hooked up originally. And so I'm like, whoa, now that you say it, it was hooked up weird. It was hooked up, the neutral wire was wrapped around the neutral, terminal and went to the ground terminal. I didn't hook it up that way, but I don't see why that would make a difference because I hooked it up right. It was hooked up wrong before. And he's like, well, you're right. It was hooked up wrong before. And what you have is you have a false neutral. And this is where it pays big time to, get involved with someone that's a few steps ahead of you, to learn from other people constantly. You need to constantly be learning from people. He told me, what you have here is a false neutral. Somewhere in the house, the neutral wire is broken. And what they did to compensate for that is they just looped it into the ground wire. So sure enough, I went back to the house. I hooked it up the exact same way that I found it originally, the neutral wire around to the ground. And I told the client straight up, like, you have a problem with the wiring in your house. This was wired up incorrectly. I can do one of two things. I can either hook it up correctly and you won't have any power to this half of the house. You need an electrician out here to take a look at it. Or I can hook it up the way that I found it, and it's incorrect. I want to let you know straight up, it's incorrect. This electrician, told me that, and I think we may have gotten a contract, signed this and that, but whatever, and told the client straight up that this is what is going on. Somewhere in the house, there's an open neutral or something's going on with your wiring, and you need to get that checked out. But as far as what I did, I finished, and the client was super happy at the end of the day. And the electrician didn't charge me anything, which was fantastic. He was a great guy. All I remember, his first name was Richard. I think I saw him because I was driving to another job and I saw his name on the back of his pickup truck, and that's why I called him. He was super helpful. He didn't have to ever come out. We just talked it on over the phone. But at the end of the day, we got the job done. Told the client, was very, blunt with the client that, hey, you got a problem here. The way that we're putting this back together, just so you know, is incorrect, and you need to get this thing fixed. So it was a lesson hard learned, because I know that there was about a day there where I was just freaking out. So I think that the way that I apply this to business, and what I want to get across on today's video, is that there's always a reason for everything, right? Things don't just happen. I remember one of the most valuable things that I ever learned, one of my first jobs after college, I went to college to become an auto mechanic, and my first job after that was I worked at a farm, and I was a full-fledged mechanic on the farm. And one of the other mechanics on that farm told me, he says, Alan, there's always a reason for everything. Things don't just go bad, right? Things don't just break. Things don't just happen. There's always a reason for everything. I mean, if a wire burns up, why did the wire burn up? Where's the high resistance, right? If a motor blows up, why did the motor blow up? Did someone not change the oil? Was one of the piston rods bent? Like what happened, right? Did this thing overheat? So it's always interesting to think about what caused the issue. So I think that has really guided me throughout my whole career, is what's the reason, right? Yeah, I see what's going on, but what's the reason for the thing going on? And most of the time it lies with, how were things done before you messed with it, right? Because sometimes people did things, but they didn't do them right. They did them so they would work. And it's your job to put them so they're right, but sometimes you can't do that. Sometimes things are messed up further beyond of what you've touched. At the end of the day, there is always a reason for every single thing. I would love to hear your guys' story. I told you guys a little bit about my business. I would love to hear about your business today. This is day 34 of my 100-day video challenge, and I'm super excited to keep bringing these videos to you. I'm like, what's gonna happen when I get to the 100-day mark, man? Like, am I gonna go for 260 or what? Anyways, I'd love to hear some stories about your guys' business, some stories where you guys have messed up, or some stories where maybe you've had to call in someone, a few steps ahead of you to kind of get some answers. I love one saying that my shop teacher always said in high school is, true wisdom isn't having all the answers, it's knowing who to call or knowing where to go to find the answers. I think that's really where true wisdom is. We'll see you guys tomorrow for day 35. Take care, guys. I look forward to hearing from you guys in the comment section below.